The light is getting really, really wonderful now, and it is special to just be sitting amongst probably about 60 or 70 elephants in total, spread out through this area. Let's just move forward a little bit. I think there's some more about to pop out of the bush, but they're going to hopefully move out into this big open area around Sandy Patch. Let's keep an eye on the little guy, see if he can master the use of that trunk in the next couple of minutes. They've gone into this little quarry thicket here, and hopefully they should move through, or we're going to get an inquisitive, here it comes. That's what you got to love about a tiny little elephant bull. They quite often get very curious when we park close to them, and quite often might leave the safety of mom's legs for a closer look at us. He's wondering what has the more pleasant scent, elephants or wild dogs. Well, Kathy, that I suppose depends on how you look at it. I get a great sense of excitement from wild dogs, and I get a great sense of well-being from the smell of elephants. So I think they're both really wonderful in their own unique ways. And there we go. She's coming right up to us while she pushes and feeds through the quarries. That young bull at the back here, Brian, and we've seen him before. Very distinct splayed tusks that go out quite wide. Little, probably just on 10, 11 years old. And we're literally now being surrounded completely by this herd. There might be a few stragglers, but we're going to go forward a little bit. Upset someone in there. Just heard that. Probably one of the little boys getting a talking to. So they're all spread through here. I'm just going to go up ahead. And I'm hoping they're going to come out into this wonderful big open area. And while I do that, we're going to chat quickly. Chris is asking about an elephant's foot, and I did say I would explain it a bit better a little bit later when we weren't looking at elephants nicely out in the open. It's heard that an elephant's foot is like ballet dancers. I'm afraid I don't know much about ballet, so I can't really comment on that. But it is a very unique design. And I'm going to show you what it's shaped like shortly. Let's wait here and see if these ladies come through. Unfortunately, I think they are going to head down into this little river system that this is the headwaters of. So we'll just have a look at these eddies as they disappear into the thickets and explain the foot. And then I think we might start meandering back towards the Nkuhumas. Let's have a look. There they're disappearing into the thickets, unfortunately. But anyway, here, the elephant's foot. It's got a very unique structure. So if you had to describe it, it almost, if you have a dissection through an elephant's foot, it almost looks like it's on tippy toes, but it's not. So it's got an incredible thick, spongy, cartilaginous pad that is there, that they are able to, that acts as the cushion, and that's what their feet sit on. And if I show you with my hand what it basically looks like, basically they've got, it sits like that. So their toes and their phalanges are very similar shaped, would be like this, sitting like that, and then they've got that big, thick sort of pad on the inside. And it's really interesting if you Google an elephant's foot to see how that structure is. And obviously that massive pad is to take that incredible weight that an elephant has, that's the best way I can describe that. I definitely should have a picture of it. I'll see if I can find one. I'll see if I post it on Twitter later on after the drive. But it is an incredible. So, oh, isn't that Eddie popped out on the road? But I think we're going to leave these Eddies now. It is getting slightly cooler, and we want to definitely be with the lions in case they decide to head off hunting or moving. So as we depart, let's go see what Jamie has been up to.
Jamie has arrived on Arathusa. No sign of this mystery leopard. I'm starting to wonder whether or not he didn't wander down to Simbambili's one-eyed pan to go and have a drink. There are just no tracks coming across the road. However, I've taken a gamble and had a think and thought, if it was Tingana and if he was further down the road than we thought he might have been, he loves to come into these drainage lines, and it'd be the perfect place for him to come and seek refuge from the afternoon sun. That is currently the method behind my madness in wandering through on these roads and just double checking really carefully in the shady spots. He loves to come and hide up in here. This is very close to where he killed that zebra. I think it was yesterday afternoon we were chatting a little bit about the answer to Darlene's question. She wants to know a bit more about tracking and what you can tell from the tracks. And Darlene, you've asked now, can you tell from the tracks whether or not, or what the sort of the emotional state of the animal might be? Can you tell if they're being chased, for example, or if they're uncomfortable or stressed? And Darlene, unless you've got specific tracks of hunting, at which point you can sort of confirm that they will be stressed, and then sometimes maybe you might be able to conjecture that a breeding herd of elephants being followed by an elephant bull in must, for example, might be a bit stressed out. But as you saw with Brent, that herd seemed to be perfectly relaxed and in fact interacting with it. So that is a bit of a tricky one. I personally don't think that you can really, with any degree of certainty, tell how an animal's feeling. I'm trying to think if there's any kind of situation in which you could maybe extend your logic and figure out something from the tracks. Beyond the chasing and that automatic stress level, I honestly can't think of anything, Darlene. Maybe pacing. Lions occasionally pace up and down a road, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're stressed. It could just be that they are calling or scent marking or anything like that. What I always try and do, Darlene, and for the other viewers learning a bit about tracking from our perspective, I'm going to try and sneak up on the staker. Come on, little one. Cooperative. Nope. There's two. Racing across. Sorry, Andrew. I had hoped we might get a good view of them, but she didn't want to play nicely. What was I talking about? Oh yes, one thing I do like to do when learning how to track, and I never consider my tracking education to be complete. I see you, little Baker. It's a male and a female. Nope. Dashing off. Little antelope species love to run very short, in sort of short bursts of speed, and then stop and watch to see if they're being pursued or if their cryptic coloration has managed to secure them a hiding place. Right, let me try and finish that thought again. So one thing that I love to do, everything wants to run. I wonder if I haven't driven through lion scat or something. Everything seems to be a little bit unhappy with me this afternoon. I can't smell anything. One very large female waterbuck, unfortunately right into the sun. But we'll be able to have a look at how fluffy she is. Sorry, my mistake. Looking very round-bellied. And there's that typical circular white mark around the bottom. Nobody really knows why they have those. It does provide us with endless entertainment though. And look at all of the nicks and cuts around her ears. That's caused by a combination of biting flies, biting around the sensitive edges. There we go, perfect. Thank you, Andrew. And then infection setting in and just eating away a little bit at the sensitive tips of the ears. She's been particularly afflicted with it. It might even have been some kind of specific skin disease. She almost looks as though the edge of her ears are frilly. And those will never heal up and become a smooth margin again. She'll always have slightly tatty ears all the rest of her life. Oh, I'm so glad on this boiling hot afternoon that I'm not a waterbuck. I know that they obviously keep themselves cool and that that coat isn't as heat trapping as it looks, but still the thought is not a pleasant one, of being wrapped in essentially a fur coat. It's very hot and very humid this afternoon. Now, of course, that coat would be lovely for winter temperatures. And as many of our regular viewers know, the reason that they have that coat is because, as the name waterbuck suggests, they love to be around water and usually in it, in areas where there are quite sort of regularly flowing rivers. They spend a lot of time wandering through that and eating away at the reeds and the soft grass around there. So they spend a lot of time in water. So that coat is coated in a nice waterproof oil to make sure it doesn't get waterlogged, and then acts as an insulator for them. She's disappeared now. But we'll continue on for our search for the mystery male leopard. If I don't have any luck here, then I'm going to head off and lick my wounds at the hyena den, as I was going to the other day. I haven't had... there's leopard tracks here. And hyena tracks. Sorry. Jolting poor old Andrew all over the place. Ouch. It's definitely hyena tracks. Where did I make a mistake? Maybe it was just a hyena track I saw. I thought I saw the tracks of a female leopard. Let's just check a bit further on. Now, Shadow has spent a lot of time in this area. I think the last time I saw her, she was very, very close to here, just a little bit to the north. Oops, no, I think I might have made a mistake. I think it might have been hyena tracks that I saw. But on the subject of tracking, and to finish off my train of thought with Darlene's question, one of the important things to do in terms of continuing with the person's tracking education is I always try and look at the tracks, even with something like an impala. If I've seen a herd of impala run across the road, I'll go and I'll have a look at the tracks that they've left behind. If I see impala sparring, for example, I love to go and observe the patterns and see if in future I'm able to apply that and and utilize it in a way that might tell me something when I next see those track patterns, which is why I took lots of photographs of the soil after the tortoise fight to try and memorize what that track would look like, so that next time I see it, I'll be able to interpret what happened without necessarily having to see the animal. Interestingly enough, Susan has asked a question that I just received an answer to fairly recently. Susan was wondering, any news on where the wild dogs are? Well, the good news, Susan, is that it seems as though they were on their way through Simbambili towards the Gowrie Gate. They didn't find the animals themselves, but they did see the tracks. Now, we've checked all around that area, so we know for certain at the moment that they haven't crossed onto Djuma, but they could well cross at some point during the night and come and pay us a visit for the sunrise safari, which of course is always an exciting prospect. There's also another pack of wild dogs further to the south that has just crossed from Mala Mala towards Cheetah Plains. It looks as though it's the Sands pack. So everybody, keep your fingers crossed, because we've had some wonderful big cat sightings. It might be time for our next wild dog sighting tomorrow morning on the sunrise safari. Or this afternoon. You just never know with wild animals and when they're going to decide to come wandering through. Or in the case of the wild dogs, bolting through at high speed and high excitement. Of course, they have a profound effect upon us as presenters, and we turn, I think Brent described it the best. He described his own reaction to wild dogs, and he says he almost starts behaving like one of them. Starts to shake and get all jittery and excited. And it seems to happen to all of us whenever we see them. Just checking very carefully in the drainage line. Our hidden kitty cats. And Jasmine, who is one of the lovely ladies who sent through my answers about the Secret 7 earlier, Jasmine wanted to know, she's been reading a book on extinct and protected animals and would like to know if I could tell her any more about the burrowing owl. Jasmine, I can't, but I will look into it for you. It's not an animal that we would see within the Sabi Sands. I'd be curious to know a bit more. I have heard of them before, and I'd love to know more. It's one of those things that I think I've just neglected. But I promise you, Jasmine, I'll have a look into it and see if I've got any information. I know that Brent is absolutely bird crazy, so he might also be quite well equipped to answer that as well. He might know a little bit more than I do. So feel free to put that question through to him as well. I'd be interested to hear what he has to say. No, lots and lots of hyenas wandering through this area, but no sign of our mystery spotted cats. This is such a beautiful, this is probably my favorite part of Arathusa, these drainage line systems that run through. There's some babblers. I also heard a dwarf mongoose. In fact, I see a dwarf mongoose at the base there of that tree there. I don't know if you've seen where it is, Andrew. Of course he has. Andrew's on the ball.
Have I?
Yes, it was there. That's exactly where it was. I think it's just ducked under cover.
There he is.
There you are. I thought I was going crazy there for a second. You can hear the rest of them chirping away. There's one actually sitting. I don't know what. Oh, they're all racing now to congregate around that fallen log that's in front of us. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Chaos. Dwarf mongoose everywhere. They're at the back at that fallen tree. Oh, hello. Come on, go join your buddies. I love dwarf mongoose. They are one of the most fascinating little creatures. I think they might be one of my favorite animals to view. They've got such fascinating little dynamics. Bounce, 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 run. All going to dash to that fallen tree that's further ahead of us. They're congregating beneath it. Here's our friend. And they've obviously got an entrance to their burrows there. And one vigilant sentry, keeping an eye on the comings and goings of the world from its heightened position of about 1 meter high on the top of that log. Any elevation counts when you're a little dwarf mongoose with all kinds of potential threats around. Let's try and sneak a bit closer. Now, we chatted about wild dogs, and of course, as the smallest predator that the Sabi Sands has to offer, they also have a very similar social structure to the wild dogs. Just concentrating a little bit on creeping up. Here we go, this is home. Hello. Keeping an ever vigilant eye on us. Still a couple of heads poking out of the termite mound around them. A bit to the right there, I think you should see one, Andrew. There we go, there's a head. Hello. And this one. Hello. Yes, we see you. We see you. And as I said, that fascinating social structure. Oh, 2 of you. And that's a little one. That's a little baby. Awesome. Oh, 3 of you. 1 baby, 2 adults. 2 babies. There's a baby at the back. Having a good sniff around. Come on, little babies. It's okay. You could come out. Bright-eyed curiosity. That one's got a little white patch under its chest. Oh, and a little investigation, just like, oh, nope, scary. That was too scary, got too scary. Just like our little hyena cubs at the den. There's one, the sentry is frozen, watching us on the log. He's on the right hand. Yeah, there he is. Perfect, thank you, Andrew. Hello. Look at the claws on that animal. Just look at that. Fierce little weapons. All of just a couple of inches long and a couple of inches high. And savage little predators. Awesome. And those bright brown eyes with very strange looking horizontal pupils. Settling down, comfortable now with us being around the den, the burrow. Those are really impressive. That's some seriously impressive weaponry. And if you ever see a dwarf mongoose yawn, which we've managed to capture on camera before, you get an idea of just how fierce those teeth are. Oh, they've got little youngsters hiding in this particular termite mound network. Yes, little baby. Amazing how much darker the eyes of the babies are compared to the adults. It's a really noticeable difference, and I never realized that before. And already, all those instincts of an adult. Slightly more rounded face, slightly blunted nose in comparison to a fully grown dwarf mongoose. They grow very rapidly though. This little guy is probably about, oh, where's she spotted? The little guy is probably a couple of weeks old. And Andreen, I'm glad that you say that these little guys are one of your favorites. They're definitely one of my favorites as well. They are so entertaining to watch. Now, most likely, 80% of the time, this is going to be the offspring of the alpha breeding pair. So usually it's the alpha that breeds, and as I said, produces 80% of the offspring. Sometimes subordinate females do breed, There you go, it's giving a little contact call. It sounds a bit like a bird. It goes chip chip. Chip chip. Chip chip. Sometimes, as I was saying, the subordinates do give birth to youngsters. Unfortunately, they tend to have a much lower survival rate than offspring of the alpha breeding pair, very similar to the way in which wild dogs operate as well. And usually the alpha female breeds about twice a year, sometimes even 3 times a year. So the development of the youngsters, that one winked at us for a second there, Andrew. Now just blinking, batting her eyelids at you.
Oh, yeah.
I think she likes Andrew. Amazing to watch. But I got completely distracted. That was not what I was going to talk about at all. What have we got up here? Hey, Andrew.
We've been
looking for these guys all afternoon. How awesome is that? It's been a long time since we've managed to catch a brown-headed parrot on camera. The vegetation has been really dense. Well done, Andrew. How funny is that? Andrew and I were just talking about them earlier. We heard them, but we were saying how difficult they are to actually catch on camera. They tend to hide away in the denser vegetation. There you go. Oh, having a good scratch there. Hello. And those seriously powerful beaks for breaking open seeds and fruits. A good scratch around, and so familiar to those of you who have had pet birds in the past, but this of course is a wild and naturally occurring species of parrot in this area. Look how dexterous they are and how well balanced they are. The way that they can grip onto something like that little twig and then turn upside down, of course they have to be. Brilliant. Well done, Andrew. That was awesome. That's the first for us in a while. It's been a long time since I've managed to get a brown-hooded. Not that I had anything to do with that. That was purely Andrew's skill and observant nature. Okie dokie. I think I was in the middle, actually, of talking about baby mongooses. And I think there was a question about whether or not they are blind and how big they are when they're born. And I have to be honest, I don't know if they're born blind. I suspect that they are, but they do develop very, very rapidly. Actually, I take that back. They probably aren't born blind. That probably works tremendously to their disadvantage, in the same way that hyena cubs are born with their eyes open. But in terms of guessing at a size, I would say a couple of grams and probably about that big. I'm trying to think of a good example. Roughly the size, when curled up, of a tennis ball is, maybe I give you a sort of rough estimate. So Holly, I hope that answers your question. I suspect they're born with open eyes, but I'm not 100% certain. And
the Nkuhumas have not moved a muscle, or probably a few rollovers during the time we've been gone. No stretching as of yet, but just some very flat, comfortable looking kitties. But it is that time of the day where there is that possibility they might get up and move, or something might stumble into them. And as I know a lot of our regular viewers would have heard me say, the most important weapon in your arsenal of seeing great sightings is patience. Of course, a little luck helps as well. So the lions are enjoying the fact that the fly population this year is not so bad. So Dylan in Iowa is wondering, how long will the lioness mate with a male or males? It's normally 4 or 5 days, Dylan, but sometimes she can have a false estrus or an extended estrus, so up to 10 days, so it has been quite a long time. And as far as I hear, she still is mating. The last she was seen yesterday with one or multiple Birmingham males. I'm not 100% sure, but I think she should possibly be heading back towards the Pride in the next couple of days. There we go. Movement. A little bit of stretch, a self-hug. There we go. Oh, cuddle. And back to sleep. It is very, very funny looking. Oh, there's a leg stretch. Well, this is more movement than the last couple of minutes we've been sitting here. I think that bush might be being a bit irritating, tickling her nose. Not that irritating, obviously. Now, it's very interesting how you see with a social cat how close they often lie to each other, even though it has been very hot today. And that's just affirming those social bonds between the pride. And a good close-knit pride is often a very successful pride. Well, while we're sitting here with the sleepy kitties, I've got a test for you guys. And let's see. I don't think I've done a tree quiz for some time, but that lioness on the left is lying under a tree, and normally we see them a bit bigger. There it is there. And if we zoom in on the bark, Brian, very distinctive bark in there. You can see very, very distinctive shape. So who out there knows what tree this could be? If you think you've got an idea, pop me an email on questions@wildearth.tv or use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. See very distinct little crinkly leaves. It grows to a much bigger tree. This is a small one. Looks like it's had a bit of an argument with some elephants. So, what tree have the Nkuhuma Pride decided to lie under for the day? A very flat cat. There's a little bit of movement. I think that bush is a little thorn bush there. She keeps just sort of, as she dozes, leaning into, but still obviously not irritating her enough to make her get up and move. Quite a nice little breeze picking up at the moment. If they don't move during today's sunset safari, I would strongly recommend keeping a close eye on the Djuma cam overnight. They're not too far from there, so hopefully they might come for a drink. A little rollover. Oh, tired kitty. Well, Nutritional Gamer, thank you very much, and you are correct. Nutritional Gamer is watching for the third time and is from Hawaii, and said, wow, this place is awesome, and it is. We're so lucky to be out in the African bush on a daily basis, and amazing we're able to share it with you all the way from the island of Hawaii to Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands, South Africa. Oh, of Valentine's Day with the Birmingham boys, or possibly chasing down a nice tender buffalo calf. Here we can see a nice view of the paw. And those are the footprints we followed this morning, made by that very paw in the sand. We were looking at that very paw print as we headed out and tracked and found them. Amazing how still the bush is at the moment. I can hear one red-backed shrike squawking somewhere. A fork-tailed drongo in the distance. So first answers are filtering through for the tree quiz. Lynn would like to know, is it a Timbuti tree? It's not, Lynn, but Timbuti does have similar bark to that. Look at the leaves. Timbutis are dark green leaves. Here we've got these pale, almost crinkly leaves. Timbutis have a round edge. I'm trying to see if we can actually spot a Timbuti around us here somewhere. Nope, no Timbutis around here. But let's see if there's maybe a bigger version of it somewhere. And well done to Safari Dean, who got that spot on. It is a leadwood or Combretum imberbe. So there we go, well done. That's a small leadwood that's been fed on by elephants. Quite a difficult one, so very well done. So while we sit here in anticipation of these cats doing more than rolling over and being flatulent, let's go see what Jamie's up to.
And just look at this extraordinary sky that Africa has provided us with. And I'm just going to let you enjoy the sunset for a few moments. The mountains merge into the horizon. And you can barely tell where mountain begins and sky. No, mountain ends and sky begins. That's where I was trying to go with that sentence. Absolutely stunning. Every sunset's different, and every evening is worth stopping by to have a look at and just observe as the day draws to a close. However, we still need to rush across to the hyena den, and I just wanted to take a few moments to present you with one of the most extraordinary views that Africa has to offer. But let us rush on to the hyena den and continue on our search for wonderful, magical things to show you. Absolutely stunning. I always think it's so incredibly important. I've spoken about this before, but no matter how wrapped up you are in whatever it is that the time that you happen to be trying to find or that you happen to be looking at, it's important to just take a few seconds, and I try and do it every day if I can, just take a few seconds to stop and look at the sunset and let Africa envelop the people that are around and watching these incredible views. Just let it envelop you in the space and the silence that it has to provide. It's such an incredible feeling. No sign of our mystery leopard, but still a beautiful, beautiful day and a stunning afternoon. Speaking a little bit about the Secret Seven, and I mentioned that I thought that the honey badger was a member of the Secret Seven. Turns out that it's not. But Brooke was wondering, do we ever get honey badgers in the Sabi Sands? And could we see them on a live drive? And we do. And we have occasionally seen them. I think the first time I managed to catch a honey badger on camera was with Andrew, actually. We did a mad and exciting race after it to try and observe it. Quick little creatures. Most of them I have seen on foot. I've yet to get one on a live bushwalk, but that's still an opportunity that's waiting for us. And there's a really, really nice, relaxed breeding pair that lives around Cheetah Cutline, Buffelshoek Cutline Junction that I've seen once or twice. Just wander into the road, stop and have a look at us. Definitely one of my favorite little creatures. An animal made of attitude. They've got incredibly loose skins, so that if anything does try to mess with them, tries to grab them from behind, they're almost capable of turning themselves right around, almost like they're turning themselves inside out. That skin is so loose. And because I've seen it catch a couple of cats by surprise, certainly leopards and curious young lions, that thought that maybe a honey badger might present an easy target, and have been shown to be completely mistaken by the savage little creatures. Aggressive and powerful, strong, crushing jaws, really long, sharp claws. Absolutely amazing little creatures. I was fortunate enough to spend a bit of time with one that was being released into the Kalahari. It had been orphaned. The mom was a very unfortunate victim of wandering onto a main road and being hit by a vehicle. Her little youngster, little male honey badger, survived, and at 6 months old I got to handle this little creature and play with it. And I mean, I always have been a very strong advocate for keeping wild animals wild, but in this case it had already been hand raised to a point in the process of taking it out on long foraging walks, teaching it to hunt for itself and scamp and forage for itself.
Can we stop for a second?
We can stop for a second. What have you got there? Looks like geese. No, Adidas. Awesome. Wah, wah. I was once told that Hydidars make that call, that wah, wah sound, because they're afraid of heights and afraid of flying. And I can't get that image out of my head. I always, whenever I see a Hydidar flying past, I imagine flapping wildly, going, wah! In sheer terror at what it's experiencing. That isn't, of course, the case. They're not afraid of heights or flying, but it's something that I cannot rid myself of that image. It does present an amusing one, though. But I was in the middle of chatting about the honey badger. His name was Badger. Badger has now been completely released into the wild, occasionally wanders back to visit, and once brought a girlfriend home to visit, but other than that lives completely wild. And at this point he was 6 months old, and I was sitting down. He climbed onto my lap after swallowing an entire bird, feathers and all, that he'd munched on, and he proceeded to nip his way all the way up my lower arms. And the next day I was covered in semicircle bruises from the strength, even at 6 months old, of that jaw. And then proceeded to chase me all the way down the road. And I must say, a charging honey badger might not be the fastest thing on earth, but it's quite an intimidating sight. It bares its teeth and lopes towards you. And a honey badger, I would love to show you a picture, but I actually don't want to stop for too long and get distracted, just because we're going to run out of time and light to spend at one of my favorite places on Djuma. Hello, Impala. Sorry, boys. You're beautiful, but we can't stop for you now. No sign of Harvey or Nelson, depending on whose side you take. The one-horned, one-eyed Impala, as Brent describes him. One-horned, one-eyed, and one ambition, which apparently is the reason behind the name Nelson. But yes, let us carry on. And while we race across, and we should be there in the next few minutes, I'm going to send you back over to Brent, who is still with his lying lions.
So, a tiny bit of movement has happened, a rollover, and the one lioness off on the right there has lifted her head and is doing a bit of grooming of herself. So maybe we might be lucky and they might move before the end of the safari. So Billy in Texas is wondering why lions have to sleep so much. Billy, because they're unable to deal with heat easily. So if they can't sweat, the only way for them to deal with heat is to pant. And if their core body temperature raises by just a few degrees, it is life-threatening to them. And the reason they haven't adapted to deal with heat is to avoid clashing with the dominant daytime predator or diurnal predator, which is man. So at this time of the day, as the lions start thinking about moving, human beings, or our ancestors, were seriously considering getting home because they knew it was about to get dangerous. Not being able to see at night, obviously a huge disadvantage when there are big cats around. Oh, yawn stretch. Oh, it looks like suddenly there's been a switch. Everyone's rolling around. Now, the real thing is we want just one to stand up, stretch and defecate and urinate, and that's a really good sign that there's a chance of movement. Although all this yawning and rolling around and whatnot are precursors to movement. There we go. That's more like it. Got an itchy bottom. Oh, look at that. Little bit of face rubbing, paw on paw. No, not quite ready for the big stand-up stretch and evacuation of bowels just yet. So even though they are hungry, they're not that hungry. Well, paw on ahead. So we've got a request from Mary in Michigan. Oh, look at that, tail in the face. For me to tell a story of possibly one of my best lion sightings ever. And it happens to do with a young male lion and a honey badger. And I know you were just chatting about honey badgers with Jamie. So we were watching a pride of lions doing pretty much exactly this, sleeping, and a honey badger came trotting down a path close to them. And the lionesses pretty much did what they did now. They sat up, looked, and then lay back down. They completely ignoring the honey badger. But a young male of about 2 years old decided, no, he can't let this opportunity pass. So he charged off, and he managed to corner and catch the honey badger. And the only way I can really tell the story is to sort of show you what happened. So I'm going to just go off the lions briefly. So what happened is this young male lion caught the honey badger, and he eventually managed to pin it onto the ground like this, with one of those big fat paws of his, keeping that honey badger flat. Now honey badgers make some really, really strange noises when they're upset. So this honey badger is literally pushed into that deep Kalahari sand, going, making very, very, very strange noises. So every time the lion tried to lift his paw, the honey badger would almost turn in his skin and try to bite him, so he'd push it back down again. And eventually, after about half an hour, 45 minutes, he's just sort of standing there on top of this honey badger, not really knowing what to do, thinking trying to catch this thing was a really bad idea. And then the lionesses got up and they started stretching and grooming and walking off down the road. Now this young man is still stuck with the honey badger. He doesn't know what to do. Mom and auntie and sister and everyone else is gone, and he's still pushing down on this honey badger. And eventually you could almost hear him counting in his head. It's okay, I got to get out of here. And he sort of goes, 1, 2, 3, and he pushes this honey badger right into the sand and just leaps in the opposite direction and takes off. And this little honey badger charges after him, going, nah, 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 nah. Fortunately for the lion, honey badgers can't run too fast, and eventually he did catch up with the rest of the pride. But it was an absolutely fascinating little interlude in a very flat cat sighting. So as we look over there, it's still predominantly flat. Here's a bit of that grooming starting. Grooming themselves at the moment, not that social grooming that we do see quite often with lions when they groom each other. So Susan in the Netherlands is wondering how far the mating lines are from these ones. Last time they were seen probably 4 kilometers, 5 kilometers, so not that far for a lion. And Susan's also wondering, how do they find each other again afterwards? By calling and by scent, Susan. So now that Nkuhuma female will probably start roaring once she's done with the, back to sleep, with the mating. And these girls will probably reply, and she'll come back and join the pride. Aha, that's what we want. There's that stretch, the little arch to the back. Nice social grooming there. Touching faces. I'm just going to... and flopping down again. So lions quite often do this before they move. I'm just going to try... move forward a skosh. See a bit more of that. How's that, Brian? There we go. Oh, flop. We're now in quite a precarious position, being directly downwind of them. Now, being a protein eater, lion gas is definitely not something you want to smell too often. Well, I think we're almost immune to it by now. We get severe drafts from time to time of half digested meat. Oh, bless you. Oh, we got up. And there we go. There's a nice stretch. Oh, it's the female with a slight limp, so she didn't stretch too heavily. Now normally, there we go. Urination. The other lions are starting to get up now. So it's almost like a signal with lions. This doesn't mean they're going to get moving straight away. Quite often they might groom and play around for a little bit. Oh, stand on the thorn. There we go. She's going to smell that other lioness's urine. We might get a phlegm and grimace. Or not. There we go, a bit of scent marking. There we go, the third adult up. Just the sub-adult still snoozing. There we go, smelling urine. And there's the phlegm and grimace. Not a very big one. Oh, and flat cat again. There's the phlegm and grimace, unfortunately not looking at us. There we go, there's that phlegm and grimace. Taking the scent of that other lioness over the Jacobson's organ and picking up all the little chemical signatures and messages that the urine is giving her. And there's the subadult, looks about to do the same. But see, this is very, very typical of lions that aren't that hungry. Get up, stretch, urinate, maybe a bit of grooming, and then flop down again for a little bit. Like they've almost flopped down in the exact position we found them this morning. Moved out. And now it is. So there we go, flopped down again, but there is that real potential that they might get moving shortly. But while we wait for that to happen, Jamie's with the other apex predator here in the Sabi Sands.
Just with them, but actually looking almost deep into the eyes of one of the apex predators. In this case it is the injured hyena, and I personally am fairly certain is a male. I could be wrong about that, of course. It's the individual with the injuries around its neck. Hello. Healing up nicely already. You can still see a little bit of the bulges. It's more prominent on the left-hand side of the hyena. Probably through some kind of scrap over, possibly over a kill. It's a little bit painful, I think. Every now and again that twitching, I think, is from flies sitting on the injury. Sitting on the outskirts of the den, probably with injuries inflicted by the clan members themselves. Some nice falling happening at the entrance to the den. Unfortunately, my way is blocked. I can't get closer. But you can hear them whining at each other. Little cubs are out and about. Oh, goodness gracious. This hyena in the entrance has stymied me. But there's our favorite little bundles of trouble. And our little cub. Looks like it could be one of the Decembers. They've grown so much now, it's phenomenal. Munching away, exploring their worlds with their teeth. Here comes November, wandering in to investigate. My personal favorite, not that you should have favorites. I think it's November, maybe it's the other way around. It's getting really difficult to tell now. I want your stick. I want that stick. There's plenty of other sticks around, but I want that one that you're chewing on because you're chewing on it, and I'm going to take it away from you. Yep. It's mine now. They're just like toddlers in their own way. Such a dejected look from the little one that lost its stick. Don't worry, there's plenty of others. Oh, the ever graceful descent down the termite mound of the den. Now, the reason I can't go closer, just to give you a sort of an idea, is that the hyena that was lying up next to us has sort of restricted our ability to move around. I don't really want to disturb him, given his current injured state. he is completely and nearly recovered, apart from a pretty ripped up neck. But Iggy has commented on something that I always find amazing. Come on. Yes, you can be brave. You can be brave, little December twin. Oh, so far away from the den. You're going to come say hello to us, or you're not quite that brave yet? Thinking about it. Oopsie. Every now and again there's a bit of a back leg coordination fail. Leg just collapsed in underneath it. They're so entertaining to watch. I will never ever get bored of spending time with these particular animals. Oh, somebody stepped on a thorn. How terribly uncomfortable, right between the pads of the toe. Ouch. Get it out. Nibbling away with those sharp little baby teeth that are just as sharp and needle-like as those of puppies and kittens. I'm talking to you. But apart from their, just got a whiff of the smell. Sure, this den is starting to become particularly pungent, and I have to move forward because it's the only opportunity we're going to get, and the cubs are right out. And chewing on their first stick. It's melting Kirsty's heart in final control, melting hearts across the world as they nibble on and explore. Whoopsie! Whoopsie daisy. What have you two got, you two little mischiefs? It's so incredible. What a privilege it is for us to be able to witness their growth and development and all of these learning curves that they're going through. One of their first experiences with a stick at a couple of, I would say about a month and a half, 2 months old. Whoopsie, it's scary, it's a little bit scary. Learning can be scary. How lucky are we that we get to spend time with these incredible creatures? And yes, Iggy, you are absolutely right. Their ability to heal, all animals out here actually, their ability to heal and fight off infection is simply astounding in my mind. And their ability to learn and to watch them grow and develop, we're incredibly fortunate. For those of you joining us for the first time, the mother of these cubs, the hyena doing a nice big yawn there, that is Madam, and she is the matriarch of this clan, or as far as we know, she is the matriarch of this clan. There in comes her previous cub, Bella, to investigate. Amazing how tolerant she is. Showing submissive signs, letting Mom have a sniff. And as the cubs of the queen, so to speak, they will inherit her status. Look, he's coming. Oh, so brave and curious. Looks like D2 and November have decided to come and say hello. Oh, not quite that brave yet, are you? Hello? Hello, naughty. Come on. You can do it. You can do it. Be brave. You can come say hello. And Fluffy's absolutely right. Fluffy has said even the big brown eyes of the adults are appealing and expressive, but the cubs are quite simply irresistible. Look at the intelligence in that face. There's something behind those eyes that is constantly learning, thinking, experiencing the world around it. Hey, Mischief. They're incredible. Definitely notice a huge difference in behavior between the one December twin and the other. November, of course, is the eldest of the group, is the bravest. All investigating, shame. The poor male lying off on his own, separate from all the goings on. I Luckily, he's perfectly relaxed with us, sitting next to him and enjoying an outsider's view of a peaceful scene. But yes, I've definitely noticed a difference. There's the other December twin, not quite as brave, or at least not quite as, what would the word be? I wouldn't say it's not as curious, or playing with one of its cousins there. A pile of cubs rushing in. I wouldn't be surprised if one of the Decembers is the one that's slightly more retiring. I think it's D1 with a white foot is a male, and that D2 is a female. That is complete conjecture on my part. This is awesome. Getting bullied by the younger cousins. Oh my word, Andrew, look at how far that little cub is out of the den. Both of them. So brave. I have to move forward a little bit so that you can see. Now Bella's definitely here, investigating his new siblings as they have a sniff around. But Deborah was, look at how tolerant he is of those little bundles of black fluff. Oh, getting very adventurous. Well, we've got a very active den site. Deborah, who is watching and familiar with our various hyenas, was wondering whether or not June is here. Deborah, I think, and it's hard for me to tell exactly, particularly at this distance, but Deborah, I think that individual that they were playing with just before we started looking at the young cubs, it was June. I think that June is here. June's just grown so much, I'm actually starting to struggle to identify the difference between June, the February twins, and Bella. I'm fairly certain that's Bella up there. Look at this, it's a pile of cubs. All investigating. There's a bit of urine on the ground there, I'm not sure whose, but they're all taking turns to add to it. And that, of course, is why... Oh, yes, have a good roll. Have a good roll. Already trying to anal paste, even at such a young age. This is awesome. And we're going to be seeing more and more scenes like this as these cubs get braver and older. At the moment, they're not quite coordinated enough, although showing some serious signs of being very brave. Whoop. Constantly running back to one very patient mother. Now, just in case for new viewers you're wondering why it is quite dark and that I haven't illuminated them in any way, the reason behind that is at this very young age it's our policy to not spotlight them. You're just adding a further distraction at a time where they are young and vulnerable. We don't put spotlights on den sites, particularly with cubs this young, which is why it was a bit of a rush to get here to make sure we could enjoy the last few moments of light with these little belly sliding cubs. Whoopsie. Coming back across to Mom. Having a good sniff around. Oh, someone's been lying in the mud all day. Incoming hyena has definitely spent its day wallowing in mud, probably around the Gallagher pan. Look how curious that cub is. Awesome. Well, I'll try and figure out a way around so we can get a little bit closer, although I don't think I'm going to be able to. Let's pop over to Brent, who has the lions next to the car.
So we are looks like we might get a bit of movement. And a little bit of phlegm and grimace there. So they move towards us, and the one lioness is literally lying so close we can't even see her properly. There she is. So they moved towards our vehicle and lay down, but they're still doing that very lion-like get up, 1 to 5 meters, lie down again, get up, lie down again. So we've got the 2 who are lying right in front of the vehicle, a 3rd up above, and the last one off to the right behind the tree over there. There she is behind the tree. Now the big question is, which way are the Nkuhumas going to go? Are they going to give you a treat and pop out on the dam cam? They got us quite excited there. We thought maybe a little bit of movement before the end of safari, just to flop down right next to us. Zoe's asking, do I think the big cats are more frisky in cooler weather and playful? Says she sees that with her domestic cats. Most definitely. It's due to the fact that they are unable to get rid of heat easily. So to extend energy playing would actually raise their body temperature. So when it's cool or colder, they're definitely far more mobile than when it's hot. And it's nice to see. It seems like they've calmed down after their being a bit jumpy yesterday from the helicopters around. And the helicopter was out, obviously, on anti-poaching patrols. But when you imagine to a lion, a very noisy, loud, big thing in the sky could be quite perturbing. You can see the little sparkle in her eye off our side lights. Or was she just looking at Brian? One thing about all the big cats, they seem to have that capability to stare straight through you. Not that they are at the moment. Definitely a new meaning to the phrase, a twinkle in the eye. So as the sun, the last light of the sun is disappearing, the lines are starting to look like they might get a little bit mobile. And I still think probably before they set off in earnest, it's going to be a little bit longer. I'll definitely be on their trail tomorrow morning, seeing where those tracks lead. Will they have made a successful kill? Will they be that little bit more hungry? And a lot of our regular viewers will know when I see a very hungry lion, it doesn't matter how flat they are, get out the thermos and the lunchbox and get stuck in, and we're not going to move, because the potential of being in the right place at the right time to catch them taking down something increases. It has been, oh, she's on the move. So a little bit of grooming before the end of drive, and be very fascinating to see where they go and flop down again during the night. Hopefully they pop out on the Djuma cam for you guys to watch. But from Brian and myself, and from Jamie, Andrew, and everyone in Final Control, it's been great having you with us. And I think there is a little bit of Jerry's cheesecake left, that I think there might be a bun fight to see who gets it. But the thumb's about to say goodbye, so toodles, and hopefully we can find these lions again in the morning.